Hello, and welcome back to another video for 143 reorder list. So, you're given the head of a singly linked list, which can be represented as L0, L1, etc., up until n. What we want to do is reorder the list to be of the following form, where we have L0, Ln, L1, Ln minus 1, etc. So, to give a better example, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We want to be 1, which is the first value here, and then 4, because that's the value at the very end. Then we want 2, which is the second value over here, and then we want 3, which is the second to last value at the very end. And we also have another example here, which does the same thing. We have 1, and then 5, then 2, then 4, then 3. So basically have it bounce back and forth. Okay, that makes sense. So let's think of some ways to do this. We can type this out as an example. Let's say we have 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, at the very beginning, we're given a pointer to the head of the linked list. So, well, the easiest thing to do first would be to iterate through the linked list, right? So like it's easy to grab the values here at the very beginning. So like for example, for the first sequence, L0, that would be relatively easy to get. We can just get that item there and then move the pointer forward. The part that's a little bit tricky to grab would be the very last item in the element, because yes, you could traverse through this pointer, traverse the linked list, and eventually reach the very end of the linked list, so we eventually reach 4. But then an issue would arise with actually being able to grab the second to last one, because once you reach the end of the linked list, we don't have a pointer to the very end one. So one way we could do this is we could figure out a way to split the linked list in half. That's the first thing we need to do. We could split the linked list in half and reverse the second linked list. So we have to figure out a way to modify the linked list so it looks something like this. So we split the two linked lists in half and we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. With this, an idea that could be done is you could have the first pointer be added up, like 1 over here, before incrementing the pointer forward. After this, you could then add the this first value's next one to equal 4. So we could do that, and then we could then eventually go modify 3, right? We move the pointer backward by 1. Well, we move the pointer forward because it's reversed, and it hits 3. Then we add 2. We can move this forward again, whereupon it'll hit nothing, in which you'll just add 3 at the very end here and return that final result. So to make this more concrete, basically the idea would be to just basically traverse through the middle, which we can do using using a slow and fast pointer. Use a slow and fast pointer, which means you have like a pointer. Let's say like we start at the very beginning again. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. We need to figure out a way to get to the middle. So what we can do is we can have a pointer moving twice the speed of the first one. So by the time this gets to halfway, the first pointer, it'll get to 2. The second pointer will have already reached the very end over here. So we can use the slow and fast pointer to figure out what the middle is. And then from there, we want to split the two apart, right? Split at half points into two linked lists. And then from here, we want to reverse the second half. And at the very end, after we reverse that second half, like we were talking about before, that's when we're going to actually basically iterate through pointers adding alternately. So yeah, we can basically modify one of the linked lists and merge them together in order to basically return this final value at the very end over here. So if that makes sense, I can go ahead and begin coding this up now. So the first thing we actually need to do is we need to figure out what the middle of the linked list is. So we'll have maybe a slow and a fast pointer like we were talking about, and we can have that both set to the same value, just head and head. What we can do next is while slow and fast, or yeah, while actually, well, fast is slow is always guaranteed to exist. So we just need to check to see whether or not fast exists and fast dot next one exists, because we want to make sure that the next value that it'll jump to will be a non-null one. So while this happens, we want slow to equal slow dot next, and then fast equal fast dot next. After this, we'll know that the slow pointer is at the halfway point, whereas the fast pointer is at the very ends. Knowing this, what we can then do is reverse the second half. Now we just need to keep track of the pointers that the where the which values the pointers are currently pointing at. So we can set the second half to start, right? Because since this is the halfway point, we want it to happen at the start of the next one. So since it's over at 2 over here, the slow pointer, we want it to point to the next one. So we want the second's beginning pointer, or beginning value. We know that it's slow dot next. From here, what we can do is set the previous to equal slow dot next, and then wait, yeah. So we want the slow's next value to be equal to, well, the previous value of the slow one. So we want on that one previous to be equal to nothing, because that's where like if this is at the beginning and we're going to reverse the array, we want it to start at nothing first. Now, while the second exists, what we're going to want to do next is have a temporary variable and set the temporary variable to equal the second's next value. So second dot next over here. Now, with the next one, we're going to want to set the next second dot next to equal the previous value, and then we want the previous value to equal the current value. So we can set the previous value to equal the current, where the current is the second value. This is the pointer for the second half of the linked list. Well, the linked list over here. Now at the very end, what we can do is set the second to equal the temp back again, and effectively at the end of this, the second half of the the linked list, like the second half of the original linked list, will be reversed, so it'll look like this. So now that we have that information, and we've performed that task, we can do the final part, which is iterating through the pointers and adding alternatively. So we know that previous is the head of the second linked list. We know that. So, and we know the first one is just at well, we can just set it to head because that's the original one. So we can do first and second equals head and prev. From there, what we can do is check to see while the second exists, what we want to do is set temp1 and temp1 and temp2 to equal the first value next one and the second value dot next one. So yeah, basically we're just going to be adding them alternating at the and then like adding them like alternating at each other. So we'll go ahead and we'll set the first dot next to equal the second, and the second dot next to equal the temporary one, because since we've already switched the first next to the second, well, we have to I'm going to keep track of what the original first dot next one is and set it to that one. So we'll go ahead and switch the first dot next equal to second. So like in this example, yeah, one is first dot next. Okay, so we start off at the very beginning here. Let's run through the example over here. We start off with first dot next and second dot next being temporary ones, and first and second is equal to head and prev. What we're gonna do is set the first dot next equal to second. So we want the first one's next one to equal the second value over here. So 1 is equal to 4. 1 begins to point to 4, right? And then we want the second one's one to point to where? Well, we want it to point to the second dot next. So we'll have it eventually point to 3. So Yeah. Anyways, while we do this, the next thing we need to do is have the first and second set to temp 1 and temp 2 in order to traverse the pointers through the linked list again. And then at the very end, we don't need to return anything. It'll just effectively have the original first linked list be be that value be the new one over here. So if we go ahead and run this now, oh, let's have a take a look again. Oh, output is 1, 2, 3, 4. We may have missed something here. Let's have a look again. So the slow and fast to the head and the head, while fast on fast out next. Slow equals slow dot next. Fast equals, oh, we forgot to move it at double the speed like we were talking about before. Let's check again for any other issues. Second is equal to slow dot next, and we set the previous at that. Yep. So the temporary, we basically just do reversal. Should be straightforward. And then from here, we set the two temporary values, and then